This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. All right, we're talking about winners and losers from the Browns Week 11 matchup. First winner I'm going to talk about is DTR. Thought he had a pretty good game, all things considered. Again, my expectation of DTR coming into this game was not of him to ignite the Steelers defense on fire. It was just to get out this game and survive, right? You're playing a veteran defense, a veteran defensive coordinator, a veteran defensive coach in Mike Tomlin. Just get out this game, survive, get a W. You're doing better than most. There's been 5 other quarterbacks who have been able to win a game versus Mike Tomlin in their rookie year. Now there's 6. Take that as a win. I don't care if it looked spectacular or not. You did what you needed to. You made some throws at the end of the game, and you were able to win this team the game. I know there's going to be people who are going to use this against him and say that we need to throw Joe Flacco in there and all of that, but I really do think you can't judge too much of what he saw from a game where he was unprepared against Baltimore, in a game where it's his first real start for all intents and purposes when it comes to preparation and everything behind that. And he's playing the Pittsburgh Steelers in a must-win game in the middle of the season when everybody is at peak intensity and peak complexity with their defensive scheming, and you're just installing the kid right now. So I think that was a pretty damn good result. Given all those factors. I'm not saying that he played the greatest quarterback play of all time or anything like that, but I think he was fine in that game. So he's a winner. He made throws. Winner. Another winner in this game, I felt like, was the Browns offensive line, especially in pass blocking. Thought that they held up well. Now, a lot of that had to do with DTR being smart, getting rid of the ball, not taking a ton of sacks, knowing when to give up on the play, knowing when to get rid of the football, and just being real decisive with it. And I like that a lot. Another part of that was just them playing well, right? TJ Watt was relatively quiet in this game. I think he had one good pass set against James Hudson. I think that Alex Highsmith was pretty quiet in this game, which was surprising. The only time you really heard from Alex Highsmith was when he got that huge roughing the quarterback penalty in the fourth quarter to extend a drive for the Browns. So it was a good day for the offensive line, given the fact that you're starting Garrett Christian, who was on the street in October. You signed him literally as a free agent in October. He wasn't on the team. And you're starting James Hudson, who we know has very big struggles, versus TJ Watt. DeJuan Jones mixed himself in there, and I thought DeJuan did an excellent job when he was in there. Obviously, he's still working off of some things, and they want to make sure that they don't hurt the rookie long term. So they're trying to play it safe. There was a little bit of an odd game plan to put him in for a little bit of time. But whatever works. And it did work for them, right? Is there anybody else who I would say winner on the offensive side? I think Elijah Moore stepped up, had a pretty decent game. Amari Cooper didn't have the most amazing game in the world, but I think Elijah Moore was able to get open downfield. I think he was a recipient of some of the bigger plays in this game. He had a nice little chunk play where he had a good yard at the catch run early in the game. And then obviously fourth quarter, he made the big catch to help put the Browns in field goal range. Really did have a pretty damn good day. Elijah Moore did. Hopefully we see more of that going forward from Elijah Moore. Anybody else do I want to? Nah, none of the running backs really had especially great days. I thought Jerome Ford started off good, but then kind of petered out towards the end of that game. So everybody else is kind of in the neutral category on offense, except for one person who was in the negative category. David Njoku had a bad game. I think this happens with David from time to time when the speed of the football being thrown at him changes dramatically from quarterback to quarterback. Like, he's just not been the best at making those adjustments, and that's usually when you'll see some drops flare up. And they flared up today. He didn't have to clean his game. And I think he even acknowledged that after the game on Twitter, and even in his post-game interview, that he felt like he needed to do a better job, and he let his team down in this one, which is great that we had that leadership in there. But yeah, David didn't have a good game, and as much talk as people are going to have about what DTR did and didn't do in that game, if David Njoku has a better day, you're talking about 1 touchdown, 215 yards, and an interception. Like the picture on where DTR was today changes dramatically because of that. Because DTR gave him some good throws, he just didn't make some catches. I think that led to the drought that they had in that third quarter, where yes, Pittsburgh was sitting on a lot and doing a lot to hurt you, but we also weren't helping ourselves, and we were dropping some easy throws that could have helped take the pressure off of you. Like, you were letting Pittsburgh get downhill because you were also letting them off the hook on first down because you're getting to like 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10. Like, one thing this Browns team can't do, no matter who's at quarterback from now on, unless Deshaun Watson miraculously heals himself, is get behind the sticks. You can't afford to do it, or you can't afford to play from behind. You got to give you on time and on schedule with this offense, and when you don't have elite quarterback play. And I don't think the wide receivers today did a great job of making sure that happened. He had drops across the board from almost everybody, and David Njoku was the biggest culprit of all the drop balls. And I think he'll come back and have a strong game next week, honestly. I think David's going to come back and have a strong game. So not really too concerned about that. But those are the winners and losers on offense. I'm going to just jump to the defensive winners and losers, and it's hard to pick out a loser defensively. Like, if there's one thing I would say was a loser, was the run defense. Not great. Not a great day for run defense today. Jaylen Warren absolutely tore us apart. I think even if you look at Najee Harris's numbers, it isn't what you would expect Najee to do against this Browns defense. The Steelers have a good run game. That is true. You got to give them credit where credit is due. But I don't think that they have the kind of run game that should slice you up like this, to be honest. Like, they gave up far too. Wow, Jerome Ford had 100 yards in that game. No, okay, that's the first game versus Pittsburgh. I was like, there's no way he had 100 yards, because I don't think we hit over 100. So that was a bad stat there that I got. But yeah, I just don't think that Pittsburgh should be doing this to you, especially when they're struggling so badly to throw the ball. Like, you should be able to key in on some of this run stuff a little better. And I just saw a lot of missed tackles, especially at the point of contact behind the line of scrimmage this week. And again, you know, we see this flare up with this Browns defense every once in a while. It seems like every 3 weeks we have a game where we can't tackle that well. This was definitely one of those games where we weren't tackling that well. Luckily for the Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers can't throw the football like to save their lives, so you didn't have to make any tackles. So hopefully that's something that doesn't flare up next week, because you could let their run game in Denver go off too, because they have some good running backs back there. But yeah, nonetheless, you gave up 172 yards to Pittsburgh on the ground and 26 rushing attempts, 6.6 yards per carry. Absolutely unacceptable for this defense to do that. Jaylen Warren looked like Nick Chubb out there. I know he ain't Nick Chubb, but that's what he looked like out there. Had that 74-yard run, and it honestly was gashing you even worse on the other runs that weren't the 74-yard runs, because the 74-yard run was just a big gash on you. Okay, shit happens. I understand. You're aggressive. That's the price of doing business when you're aggressive. But them other 50 yards and 8 carries, pretty concerning stuff. Like, he broke a lot of tackles. Really didn't love it. You're thankful that they stopped running the ball with him. They kept running the ball with Najee, who had 12 carries for 35 yards. Don't know. Second week in a row, the Browns have been bailed out by coaches just deciding not to run their best running back, because this happened with Baltimore and Keaton Mitchell last week, where Keaton had like 3 rushes for like 45 yards and a touchdown, and they just stopped using them. And the same thing happened with Jaylen Warren, where they just decided to stop using him for whatever reason. So run defense performance, pretty pathetic this week. I think it was much left to be desired. I get that Jaylen Warren's good. I get that Najee Harris is good. I get that the Steeler offensive line is blocking real good with the run with Broderick Jones and all the adjustments that they've made throughout the season. I'm not trying to discount them at all, but 172 is a bit much. If the Steelers would have ran for like 107, 120 maybe, I wouldn't be sitting here bitching and moaning and complaining about that. But 172, 6.6 yards per carry, and a longer 74 and a touchdown, just not acceptable numbers from this defense. Now, the good news is that, they only had 77 yards total passing. So you absolutely kicked ass there. But I'm going to be honest with you, that was an unacceptable run defense performance by these guys. I thought they did a good job in coverage. So we'll switch to the winners. The winners for this game, I thought, were everybody else on the defense. Well, every other element of the defense, right? The secondary, I thought, played lights out. You look at George Pickens, only 4 receptions for 38 yards on 6 targets. Allen Robinson, 3 for 20. Deontay Johnson, 2 for 16 on 8 targets. 2 for 16 on 8 targets. 2 receptions on 8 targets. Really great there. Really great stuff there. I think that the secondary really played lights out today. Martin Emerson played really good. Thought Denzel Ward, you even hear about anybody trying to throw at Denzel Ward this game. So he's getting that shutdown treatment. I thought Grant Delpit and everybody else was good. Pat Freiermuth was a absolute non-factor in this game, right? I talked about this before. The Browns are stacking up some impressive numbers versus opposing tight ends this year. If you go and look at it, they did a good job against Mark Andrews last week. Pat Freiermuth comes in here, only gets a target, but that's because he's covered most of the game, and gets 1 reception for 7 yards. Steeler fans were coming in here hyping up the return of Pat Freiermuth, how it's going to fix Kenny Pickett and all this shit. And he got 7 yards. So good job, Grant. Good job, linebackers. Good job filling in. I love Taki at the Mike linebacker position. He's just so good at it. I'm wondering if he's going to become the full-time Mike next year, if they choose to not continue with Anthony Walker, or if they're going to find a way to kind of make those two coalesce. But Taki really has found his footing as a football player with this team. And that just goes to development that this staff has done, not just with their own draft picks, but with guys from previous regimes. And I think Taki is a great example of a guy from a previous regime that this team took great pride in making sure they get the most out of, and they have. Same thing can be said with David Njoku, Wyatt Teller, so on and so forth. They did a great job making sure they didn't just kick guys aside because they were John Dorsey trades or draft picks or projects. They really did get the most out of all of this. Again, you hold any team to under 100 yards passing net, that's pretty damn good. I thought they did a great job there. The defensive line was tremendous all game. Myles Garrett with 2 sacks in this one. He's at 13 for the year. It's crazy because I say Myles Garrett has 13 sacks on the year, and it doesn't even sound like that big of a deal. But that's a crazy amount of sacks. He's on pace for 20. Right? No, he's on pace for more, I think. If you do the math, he has 13 in 10 games? So 13 in 10. My bad. 13 in 10 times that by what? No, 13 in 10. And then you times that by 17. Yeah, he's on pace for 22.1 sacks. So if he wants to break the sack record, I guess he has to find a way to get that up one. But he's on an incredible pace here to have an incredible season, and he has some games against some quarterbacks coming up where you're like, damn, Myles might have a shot at it, right? Because Denver, Russ takes a lot of sacks, man. Russ gets sacked a ton. I'm pretty sure Matt Stafford he doesn't get sacked that much because he's a get rid of the ball guy. But let's look at like how many sacks that some of these quarterbacks have taken that are up on the schedule pretty soon here for the Browns. See the leaders. So you play Zach Wilson. That's the guy who has the second most sacks in the NFL, or has been sacked the second most times. Sam Howell has been sacked 47 times this year, which is a crazy amount. But Zach Wilson has been sacked 33 times. Russell Wilson has been sacked 30. That's both number 2 and 3. Joe Burrow sacked 24. Now, obviously, you're not going to play Joe Burrow. You're going to play Jake Browning, who I imagine probably going to be a little bit more sackable than good old Joe. You also have Justin Fields, who's in the top 10 of sacks taken, and then Trevor Lawrence, who's in the top 10 of sacks taken. Matthew Stafford is in the top 17 of sacks taken, and so on and so forth. So you do have some opportunities here if you're Myles, where you're like, man, he could like explode in one of these games coming up, because you're playing 4 guys who take a ton of sacks within the next 4 weeks, and then you play a rookie, and then you play Zach Wilson, and then you play Jake Browning. So real chance here. Myles could, like, he's on pace to be close to the sack record. Real chance he breaks it this year. Just given the opportunity available to him, if he stays healthy, there's a good chance that he could do that. And if he breaks the sack record and this Browns team finds a way to win the division, I'm telling you right now, Myles is probably going to win MVP unless somebody at the quarterback position emerges in the next 4 weeks. Because right now, there's no guaranteed quarterback that's playing super well. It doesn't look like Tyreek's going to get that 2,000. So Myles is probably the best option. But yeah, he's making a real push for it. We'll see if he can capitalize on it. But again, he just had an excellent game. But he wasn't the only one, man. You know who's really been coming on as of late? It's been Obo Okoronkwo. He's really come on as of late. He had 4 TFLs in this game, in a sack. That's eating. That's crazy eating numbers right there. 4 TFLs and a sack in this game. Really, really starting to come on there as the compliment to Myles Garrett, but also as a compliment to Zadarius Smith. I think that Obo is really living up to all the things that people were excited about him coming into the season for. If you look at his numbers for the season, he's at 3.5 sacks and how many TFLs? It doesn't tell me how many TFLs, but he's at a pretty high number. He's been playing at a high level. I don't think the regular numbers do it well. I think the pressures are pretty good for him as well. And then you look at that plus what they've been able to get from Myles, obviously, and I think Zadarius is starting to come on strong here. Shelby Harris, Jordan Elliott, Maurice Hurst, Dalvin Tomlinson. This defensive line is just one of the best things in all of football. And this Browns defense is the best in all of football. I don't really know anything or anybody who's even remotely close to them. They've out-defensed every single one of the best defenses in the NFL. Literally, I'm dead serious. Like, I don't know how people are debating this still, but the Browns defense is out-defensed the San Francisco 49ers. They out-defensed the what team? The Pittsburgh Steelers. They out-defensed the Baltimore Ravens. They've out-defended, or even the Cincinnati Bengals, who are a pretty good defense. Like, they've out-defended all of those defenses. They're a better defense than every single one of them. The numbers say it. It's true. They're a better defense than every single one of those teams. They're a better defense than anybody in the NFL. I don't think anybody's even touching how good this Browns defense is. Yeah, it's just that good. They have all of the small stuff plus Myles Garrett. So those are my winners and losers for today. Let me know who your winners and losers are down in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.